You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens. Myself. Oh my goodness, this week has been nuts. And I thought that this week was going to be a little bit better because it was Valentine's Day, we had President's Day, we had all these holidays, and I was just thinking, okay, this is not going to be too much. But I feel like when there's like a lot of holidays and things going on at the same damn time, that's when people tend to lose their mind and show their ass. And so it's just been like nonstop, bombs dropping everywhere. I was sitting here thinking to myself, how am I going to do this podcast? I mean, it's so many, things to talk about in so little time. But of course, we make it happen over here. We do, give you all 2 hours and some change of some good news, some good topics. So, I'm fortunate that I'm able to, kind of do it as long as I like. So, shout out to that. So people have been asking me, how was Lancaster? I've been trying to get this right. I say Lancaster. I'm just going to say Lancaster, but Lancaster, I think is how people pronounce it. I'm not from there. I'm not even going to pretend, so Lancaster. Lancaster was fabulous. I had a really good time. I really loved the place. I was at the Marriott Hotel downtown next to the Lancaster Convention Center. It was very nice. The weather was really chill. It didn't snow. There was a little bit of rain on the evening, but that resort was fabulous. And for those who follow my Instagram, you saw that lovely picture of me just cozying up in the resort. I was in a suite, and the suite was expansive. It was the biggest suite I've ever been in for myself. Okay, I've been in suites that were, for other people, but this was my own suite. Barry and I went. It was a great time, and the bedroom was huge, but that suite was glorious. It was gorgeous. It was wide. There was couches that had a modern look, and I had to take a picture. I just had to take a picture because so throwback, retro. I have a thing for taking pictures of myself on couches in fancy hotels. So a couple years ago, if anyone who read the piece, of course, New York Times piece about I am not missing any of the Amy Coopers during the pandemic. This piece I wrote about being black in a pandemic during the New York Times. If you just Google Ernest Owens New York Times, the article will come up. And there's a picture of me laying on the couch, relaxed and looking, real dapper. That photo was taken back in 2017, and I was at the AKA in Rittenhouse Square. And the person who took that picture is a local photographer in Philadelphia who takes a lot of great photos. Her name is Kelly Burkhart, and she also took a photo of me, raising the rainbow flag, that famous LGBTQ pride flag with the black and brown stripes. There's this picture of myself and certain activists and community members that was at this flag raising at City Hall that is shared all over the world. She took that photo as well. She's taken a lot of photos of me during the time where Gabriel racism was happening, and she took a lot of photos and everything during that time. So she took this photo of me. These were private photos that I just wanted to have, and it's a black and white photo, and it's very iconic. Well, I, years later replicated that, but this time in color, and this time with Barry being the photographer. And I was laying on the couch in a silk satin navy blue robe, just in awe. And the place was beautiful. I loved the place. I was looking in my head like, this could be my house. I actually felt like it was my house. It was my, I called it my temp house, as in temporary house during the time. We was in a high, we were on the 18th floor. We had a really big view of Lancaster and all of its folksy charm. And some people said Hicks charm, but I'm going to say folksy charm because I thought it was very much so a very cute provincial town. And the food was fabulous. One of the things that I fell in love with, because people kept saying, where was all this food you were eating? I only ate at two places in Lancaster, and that was Plow, which was in the hotel. Listen, that restaurant was genius. And what I found out about that restaurant, Plow, which again, it's a what they would call a New American. That's what the kids call it, New American cuisine. Um, which is basically American food, but with a twist. For example, they had beet salad, all homegrown. Lancaster has a reputation of having farms across the Commonwealth, like their milk, their dairy, their cheese, their eggs, all these things they have farm fresh, and just that's the energy it gives. So this place, Plow, I mean, everything in there was great. The wings were great. Their cocktails was great. I'm not even a sangria person. I mean, I am a sangria person, but sometimes sangria can get a little too, sugary and syrupy. But their sangria was the bomb. I mean, some of the best food. I mean, bread, yes. And I've taken a keto break, as you all know. So, like, for folks that was like, oh, that cauliflower? Don't play with me. Listen, you cannot do keto for like ever and ever and ever. You have to take some breaks to, get yourself together and then you go back into it. So I'll be going back to it soon enough. But I, enjoyed the delicious bread, the fresh ingredients, lots of great food. The chicken was just great. I mean, everything was great. And then we went to a place called the Exchange, which is connected to that strip to the hotel. And the Exchange is the highest rooftop at Lancaster. And that rooftop was, listen, y'all, it was fabulous. They had a fireplace outdoor thing. I love a good fireplace outdoor rooftop situation. The food was great. We had our Valentine's Day dinner there. We had duck confit wings and king crab sushi. I mean, it was just fabulous things. And all of this was, we celebrated 7 years of being together, as you all know. So it was Valentine's Day, and then Barry's birthday was this week. I gave him a really great gift, y'all. I'm doing good with the gifting. I'm a good gift giver in general, but this gift, okay, was fabulous. I got him a bar table, and now some of you might say, a bar table? What are you talking about? So as you all know, Barry has his own business. It's called Bartender Barry, and he is, outside of the work that he does in communication as a communication professional in the city, his side hustle, his baby project is Bartender Barry, which is a bartending company that is his. He does private events. He does cocktail making. He does it all. He's a great bartender, if I do say so myself. I've had many of his lovely cocktails while doing this show. Right now, I'm sipping on water because the stuff that we're going to be talking about today does not require me to drink a cocktail. But that being said, it was a fabulous time. And so I got him this bar table, which came in directly his birthday, which is on the 17th. He is an Aquarius and I'm a Libra. We talked about this like last week. But this bar table is waterproof. It's a nice slick black one. It's like 55 inches or whatever long. It's a very wide, spacious table. It's beautiful. And quite frankly, I didn't realize that bar tables could be that pretty. And in my mind, I was like, okay, it's for you, but it's also pretty for the house. So it's like almost like I bought furniture for myself. But no, it's for him to use at events and to, set up and do things. And he does a lot of like live videos and virtual. He's been doing a lot of these virtual cocktail making sessions. If you want to know more about it, bartenderberry.com. Put in bartenderberry on Instagram, like the bartender_berry. It comes up. Look at me doing this shameless promo. But I mean, it's his birthday, and I really do love his stuff, and of course I do. And his drinks are fabulous. I taste test all of his cocktails, and even though I'm not much of a brown liquor gal, I do appreciate his brown liquor cocktails myself. I'm a clear liquor person. I love gin. I love vodka, and what else I like? I mean, I can do rum and everything in between. I'm not a picky person when it comes to liquor. But I do have my favorites, like keep me away from tequila unless it's like, I don't really know if they, I can drink tequila. I'm not crazy about tequila. I don't like the smell. I like the aftertaste, but there are some people who've made some great tequila cocktails. I think, Pomola or whatever. If you make me one of those, I think that has tequila in it. I'll drink that, but it's got to be something that's like with a blood orange vibe or something. Sunrises, no. Margaritas, yeah. I mean, who doesn't like a margarita? But like, tequila is just like whatever. Maybe because like, okay, so I love to digress, but This is what you listen to this show for. The sidebar shit. So, no pun intended to bartending. But my first drinking experience, which is crazy, when I tell people this, I didn't drink in college until I was 21. And part of that was because I always had a fear that I was going to like get super, super drunk and lose my mind. And I didn't think I would have control of my body or myself. That damn deep, right? At 18. But once I turned 21, I started to drink. But the thing about it was that I didn't understand and I try to teach people this about college. I didn't understand how to drink when I first, but most people when they're young don't know how to. But at 21, when I was first drinking, I didn't know how to actually drink. And that's a real thing. A lot of people are grown as fuck that are like grown and still don't know how to fucking drink. But I did not know the art of drinking. Like I didn't understand how to actually drink. I came from the group that thought, oh, the purpose of drinking is to get drunk. Like drunk. Like, otherwise there's no point. Or it was like you drink to black out or you drink to, get lit. It was just never the idea of just drinking as a relaxing, chill, buzzy vibe thing. Like now I don't get drunk like at all anymore. Like normally, and now I drink, I get a nice little groove as I call it, and I'm good. But I like to drink the flavor of a drink, to, get a little bit of those buzzy vibes, the scents, the smells. Like I'm getting married to a man who has a certificate, like he has certificates and licenses and all these things in liquor. Like he has a whiskey certification. Like he's a certified whiskey ambassador for some international group. He can tell you all about whiskey and the different types and smells and notes, and look at me, notes. But like that's, he knows how to do it. I started to do that with wine. So I have a wine subscription that I've had for like several years now. And, I've gotten into wine. I'm a red wine drinker. I hate white wine. That's just facts. Like, I don't know anything about red wine. I mean, white wine. Red wine only. And I of course, I drink, sparkling. I love a good sparkling wine. I love, champagne. Rosé is okay. Depends on which one it is, but I'm not like a rosé all day person. It's just kind of like, okay. I don't know. I think people just like it because it's pink. But anyway, I think for me, when I first started, I just thought that was the point. So I went out to a dinner party with friends. We were in Chinatown in Philly. We was at Banana Leaf, which is a fun BYOB. It's very sloppy. You're going to see a lot of college kids get drunk and sloppy and a mess. Back when, we could all go out, and it's just so sad that people are just not supporting Chinatown restaurants right now. The racism, the ignorance. I've made it a point to just eat something from Chinatown like once a week at least. Support the Chinese restaurants and stop all of that anti-Asian discrimination, hate. It's just stupid. But when I went there the first time, I was at a dinner party. I had at that time a date. We were not in a relationship, but he was someone who wanted to be a plus one and come, and I was trying to make a good impression, but I ended up failing. So what ended up happening was that they were passing tequila shots, and I just drank like 4 ounces, like about a hat, like about 4 or 6 ounces of tequila straight, like it was water. And had the burn experience because I just didn't understand what I was doing. Clearly, I know what the fuck I was doing. So I drink this, and I'm like, come on, where's it at? Whatever that experience is, thinking, was I supposed to feel something? Again, not knowing how to drink. I don't feel anything. So I guess I need another shot until I do. And then 5-10 minutes later, woo, started feeling it. And I was a mess. I was a mess. A mess. Another time, Drunk Tales by Ernest. No. Another time I was a junior. At this point, this was my next semester. I was still 21. I went to a rave. It was called a rave. It was like the Kappas, who was like a fraternity, black fraternity. They had a thing called a Kappa rave. I think that's what it was called. And it was on Delancey Street in University City. There was like a party, some frat house, some basement party. And me and my bestie, Jamarcus, we were there. Well, we had a little pregame, and it was like an absolute bottle. And see, we used to get those big ass ones that were meant for parties because by this point we didn't do rubbing alcohol. That's the one thing about I would say about myself. I'll give myself praise. No matter how much my drinking literacy was not there, I understood that good quality liquor is just what you got to do. If you're gonna eat a good steak, you better get a fucking cocktail that has like real ingredients and stuff. Like if it's on the bottle, listen, the way my friend put it, if the bottle, when you go to the liquor store, if you can't see that bottle with your eyes, you shouldn't buy it. Let me say it again. And people who are grown understand what I'm saying. If you can't see that bottle standing with your eyes, then you should not buy it. If you have to look down, that means that you should not be buying that bottle. And that was the rule I learned. Okay? I learned early though. I was never one of those pinnacle people. I was never one of those folks that got those Soskovsky, whatever those Russian. See, the Russians are a mess all over the place. Liquor, Trump. I mean, just the Russians are just a bad look. The only Russian I really like in history is Anastasia because her story is everything. I don't think any other Russians I really care much about. Oh, I like that group Tattoo who had that lesbian song. All the things she said, all the things she said. Okay, that's such an early 2000 song. If you know who Tattoo is and you remember the whole controversy about lesbians kissing, I think they were Russian and I love that song. All the things she said, all the things she said, running through my head. Anyone remember that? Okay, probably don't. Anyway, those Russians were cool. Everybody else, I kind of like, And I stay away from all of these like Russian bottle vodkas that are in plastic bottles. Like you are so tacky. Like where is the class? Where is the class? Like we are better than that. We are better than that. We do not drink, vodka in plastic bottles. We are better than that. I just wanted to say that we're better than that. We don't do that over here. So anyway, I got into this point where I started drinking. We had Absolute Citron and the big bottle, and we drank it with friends. So we didn't drink it by ourselves, but we was drinking. A bunch of that. We did mix it with Chaser, and I was even bougie about my Chaser. So I used to always have 100%. Ocean spray cranberry juice, but I used to always get the different flavors. So you would have like pomegranate, cranberry, all the different flavors, and we would mix it up. So anyway, we drank it like it was just water. Go out that night, and I think he knew I was doing too much. I knew I was doing too much when I was about to head out. So we go to this rave. We get lost in the party. It's everyone and their mother's there. It's spring fling. It's a big old party. Music is bumping. Everything is great. Bumping. The way he tells the story, because it's an oral history here. Jamarcus says that someone asked him, "Hey, is your friend okay?" And apparently, I was like tilted like a wilted flower, just like down. And he's like, "I don't know what's going on over there. I think he's fine." He's thinking I'm fine because I'm tall and I didn't fall on the floor. Well, somewhere along the way, I end up making it to the bathroom. And when I go to the bathroom, I am like laid out. And so, again, I guess someone told him I was in the bathroom. So he goes and like sees me in one of the stalls. He sees that my head, I got a cut upside my head, like a knot or something. Like I'm bleeding a little bit from my head side of my head. So he's like, okay, foul on play. We got to get him out of here. So I remember it was him, one of my friends named Chris, who, I don't know if he listens to this podcast, but he probably remembers this, but like he's out somewhere doing great things. He's like a lawyer now, but it was him and Jamarcus, and they lifted me up and they were carrying me out like an emergency, like blocking everybody out. And I'm going to tell you why they did this. And what's going on, because I'm just like, there's a lot going on, and I'm like, hold up, this is a situation. I need to figure out what to do and how to respond, right? And so it's been a lot, and something is crazy, and I'm just figuring out if it's okay or what's going on and how to respond, how to react to this. And so he's like picking me up, saying, "Okay, we got to get him up. We got to get him out of here," kind of thing. It's like we can't let him stay here like this. We gotta move. We gotta get him out of here. Take him out now. Move. So it reminds me of that scene from Malcolm X with Spike Lee at the end. Now this is a little tragic, but this is what I'm thinking of, where you see the paramedics and everybody getting Malcolm X, on the stroller, and they're moving and taking him out because they got to make sure they're trying to save his life, because this is when he gets assassinated. And it's that black and white scene in Malcolm X. So Malcolm X is mostly in color, so it's a black and white scene, and everyone's like going fast and strolling. It's very chaotic and dramatic. That's how I felt when they were taking me outside of Delancey, outside this frat house. Like, they're like trying to get me out of there, get me into my dorm room. And the reason why they did this is because they did not want Mert to get my ass. Now, for those in college that know about Mert or know about those people, those are those motherfuckers that drive in an ambulance, emergency van, and drive all around campus trying to find anybody that's a little tilted or whatever to take them and put you up there where they're going to put you in that bed, and that's $500 being charged to your student account. Okay, and that doesn't even matter what it is. They could give you Pedialyte, a glass of water. Your ass is paying $1,500 if your ass touched that bed. Okay, and people who was in college, you know what I'm talking about. So they be looking for bodies to take up over there. And let me be clear, I support the medical community, health folks, and the folks that do their job. But sometimes, okay, and I'm just talking from my own personal experience. I am talking about my experience. Full disclaimer. My ass would never be in a position where I was too drunk in a situation where I needed them to pick me up. How do I know? Because I never got my ass in one and I am still standing. That being said, if they would have saw me tilted, they would have put my ass in one of those beds and I would have been paying $1,500, and my mother would have dragged me, would have flew all the way from Texas to Houston, to Philly to get me. Okay? Because I was tuition free. I didn't pay tuition to go to Penn, and I was about to pay $1,500. No, where was we going to find that money? It was just like, listen, I didn't get drunk off of a bottle of Dom Perignon and Cristal. Like, why am I over here $1,500 for a non-nightclub turn up? A fucking college frat turn up, and I'm spending $1,500 to get taken to a hospital? That's when you know you got some problems, okay? When your turn up is causing you that much money and this is a free college party and the liquor is cheaper than God knows what, see, no, not gonna happen. Wasn't a fan. Was like, no, I gotta save myself. I gotta preserve my energy because, people out here will have you out here in these streets. And I was just like, nope. I gotta make better decisions, and it's been a lot. So, it's been a lot, you know what I'm saying? I think the crazy part, has just been just a lot, you know what I'm saying? Just thinking about it. And I just want people to be safe. I want people to be safe. I want people to be smart. But I also want people to be, listen, I'll say this to grown folks, to grown folks that have graduated from college, folks that are past 22 years old. You got people out here that are not, drinking or learning how to drink for the first time who've been far worse. Now, let me just say this because this story ends on a happy note. They got me to my dorm room. They gave me coconut water. I think I took ibuprofen or something like that. Went to bed, drank water, was okay. Woke up like, what hangover? So shout out to real friends. Shout out to Chris for taking me there. Shout out to Jamarcus. And just shout out to the folks that, made sure I was okay. But that being said, though, like, I encourage people to drink responsibly. Learn how to drink. And what I learned, and the lessons I will teach you all, for those who still drink, learn how to drink, understand your limits, your limits, stop mixing liquors. If you're going to be clear, stay clear. If you're going to be brown, stay brown, okay? What else? Drinking is no excuse to touch anybody or to do anything out of control or to rape a person. Like, no. And drinking doesn't ever justify the rape anyway. Like, stop it. Don't rape people. Don't think that an opportunity can come because you're drunk. Like, don't get that kind of liquid courage. That's important. Consent is important. Um, don't be in a situation where you think that you need drinking to be social. Is it an element of being social at events? Sure. But don't be codependent on it. Don't feel like you have to have a drink in order to be social. I mean, yeah, I'll say that. I was going to be shady and say, well, what if you have you're at an event and you see an annoying ass person that well, listen, if drinking a sip of drink, having a sip will keep your mouth shut when you see a hater in the room and you don't want to confront nobody at somebody's event, anybody at an event, and you don't want no drama to go down, maybe you may just sit with your drink and sit and be there. Always have a person with you when you're drinking. Don't drink alone. That's weird. I mean, unless you're at home. I mean, because, like, listen, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But don't go out alone and drink by yourself. It's just avoid it as much as possible, just in general. It's just weird. You better be able to afford your mistakes that you make with your drinking. Okay? And I mean that. If you break shit, you better pay for it. Okay? Don't get drunk that you break somebody else's shit and then you don't know how to take care of it, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. Pay for the things you break if you get too tipsy. And if you can't afford to break people's shit, don't drink. And you shouldn't be breaking people's shit anyway, but just that's important to know. And then other than that, what's the other thing? The goal of drinking is not to necessarily get drunk. It's not. It took me my college years to understand that drinking is not only for the sake of getting drunk. But that's what everyone in college, a lot of people in college were doing. Their whole mentality was you're supposed to drink to get drunk. And there's a lot of people that still think like that. And that's kind of sad. I mean, I'm about to be 30, so I've come a long way. I'm not even gonna call out one of my friends, but I'll tell this story and then I have to move on clearly. Because this is not the drinking episode. But anywho, one of my best friends, won't name names. It's not Jamarcus. I'll just start with that. But this person, I'm not even going to name the gender. One time we went to a party. We were trying to go to a party on Penn's campus. And they got drunk off of this thing called Gold Slogger. It's one of those like things with the gold pieces. And apparently the gold pieces are edible, but they can cut at whatever it is. And it opens it up so that the alcohol goes in harder. I mean, that was the narrative we was told around this damn thing. But it was this really hard, like distilled liquor or whatever. It was not Everclear. I know what Everclear is, and Everclear is the devil. And I don't know why anyone is serving Everclear. Clearly, that is like ridiculous. But anywho, I don't even know why they even sell Everclear at the liquor store. That's just toxic. But this was not. That was Golden Slog, whatever this thing is. Well, this person drank. See, this is when they, them pronouns come really helpful with hiding the ambiguity of this person's identity. They was just drinking too much of it. And at Penn, there is a big, huge, like, bridge, well, not like a cobblestone bridge that connects from Locust Walk to other side of Locust Walk. AKA, it's the bridge from campus life to then going up Locust Walk to the main corridors of campus and things. So we were trying to go up that bridge so we could cross over and go to this campus party that was at Houston Hall, which is a location at University City that was a part of Penn's campus. It's where all of the parties were being thrown, all the big events. So they were all very much so, we were all excited. Well, they were just walking too slow for me. And I try to be my brother's keeper, or my sister's keeper, either, or their keeper, right? Let me be clear. And so I crossed this damn bridge. And I'm like, they're like, go ahead, we'll see you there. They never made it past that fucking bridge. And it was just because they got too turned. But long story short, we learned a lot then. The good side of this story is that we all are not drinking like tramps. We're a lot better. Some are better than others, but we're a lot better. And I've been trying to, we all like wine. So yes, that was how my weekend was. Valentine's Day was fabulous. A lot of people have been talking a lot about, just hating on these couples, Michael B. Jordan and his little baby. Let me stop being shady. Lori Harvey. People are criticizing him. Lil Boosie, the homophobe, referred to him as a simp for dating Lori Harvey, and are being mad over heels, in love with her, and he threw that Instagram worthy video. He gave her stocks and Hermes purses, and he did a aquarium with rose petals, just doing the most. I'm not mad at it. I mean, they're cute, I guess. I mean, they're just rich people just having a rich old time. I mean, you know, it's. I like to see working class people, middle class people do the most creative shit with their loved ones. I don't know, rich people doing expensive things for rich people is just kind of like. Again, I'm happy for them. I'm happy. Black love, yay! If it's real, it's real. I'm happy for them. I just feel like people start to again compare, and it's like, oh, whoa, I gotta do that. I gotta step my game up. I'm sorry, I'm not stepping my game up for a multimillionaire. Listen, he better enjoy this damn bar table and call it a day. But like Lori Harvey, Michael B. Jordan, millionaires are doing what millionaires do. So, and then Lil Boosie, man, like who wants Lil Boosie? And who is Lil Boosie to call somebody a simp? Okay, I am so mad at Lil Boosie. Lil Boosie gave us hits, and now he's just with the shits. Just a disappointment. And then Sierra and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson and Sierra have been having this lovely relationship. And now I have a problematic fave. I just love Future. I have such a crush, a fan crush on Future. Future Hive. Oh, he's so cute. No, but I think Future is a great rapper. And, well, he's not a great rapper. He's just a fun rapper. Let me clarify that. To say he's a great rapper is to say that his rap is like of an artistry. It's not like that. He's a banger maker. He makes great bangers. His music is just great, but he's a trash individual apparently. Sensational. I don't know if he's a trash individual. Well, yeah, he's trash. But I think the problem is that a lot of people, see. Okay, so for those who don't recall all of this, remember Sierra went out with him. Sarah has went out with a lot of terrible guys, and I'm not judging her for it. Love is love. A lot of these men date terrible, get in terrible relationships, okay? But, she dated 50 Cent allegedly. Bow Wow, she had a thing with him allegedly. Little John allegedly. She's dated some interesting, characters in the industry. But Russell Wilson is a great man. Very cute. He's a player for the Seahawks. Fuck the NFL. But he's a great, upstanding person nonetheless. Sierra went from musician. I wouldn't say she's a football wife. She's trying to do modeling. Her music, we don't have to talk about her music, but her new music, her old music, yes. Her new music, we'll just skip over that. But she is, keeping herself relevant, doing her thing, living her best life. And her and Russell are like clearly in love with each other. I mean, my goodness, like they're just so like gushy. But see, I'm always wondering with couples that get that gushy like that. Like, is that, I'm not going to say it's not real for them. I think it's real for them. I mean, I think Russell feels like he's found his angel, and she feels like she's found the best man ever. And they're so cute together. I really do like them. And I'm happy for her, and I'm really happy for him. And, I think, they're cute. But, it's everybody on the sidelines is, the hoteps are mad. They're like, oh, these men are weak behind this. And, just pushing their toxic masculinity, their bitterness, their ashiness, and they just can't be happy for them. But I think it's cute for now. I enjoy it. I think they deserve, and I'm gonna leave it at that. So my family, okay, as you all know, global warming. I'm sorry, climate change. I'm sorry. Like, thank goodness we're back in the Paris Climate Agreement. Texas is being Texas. It's cold as fuck over there. Which is not a Texas thing. At one point, it was colder in Texas than it was in Philadelphia. Can you believe that? See, this climate change is real. I keep telling you all to care about the environment, recycle, being responsible, stop with all these carbon gas emissions. Like I don't drive a car, I try to, use car ride sharing. I mean, just respect the environment, people. Okay, now it's like a hippie, but I'm not a hippie. I care about my life. This is a racial issue. This is an economic issue. This is a health issue. The pollution in the water is killing our kids. Look at what's going on with Flint. Look what's going on in Houston. Look what's going on in California. This is a real issue. Okay, so people need to take the environment seriously. All right, but that being said, there's been some crazy weather in Texas. Lots of cold, blackouts all over. My family lives in Katy, Texas, which is outside of Houston now. And I'm fortunate to say that as of the time in which I'm doing this podcast, their lights and electricity has been restored. So I'm really happy about that. But it was interesting. It was a lot. For the past couple of days, I was calling my mom and my brothers who were there, and just like checking in on them, and they're out there living like the Revenant. That movie with like Leonardo DiCaprio. That's how I envisioned it. But like they were using the grill, barbecuing meat, wrapping things in aluminum foil. But they were making do with what they could, and the refrigerator stayed cool. The food did not spoil, which was good. Like it was able to give a refrigerator in time, but things did not spoil, which was great. They were able to use the car. The good thing about the car situation was that she has an SUV, my mom, and they had the gas filled up to full. So they were like, the car was prepared. She had just filled it up that weekend. And so they was able to go in the car and stay warm for like an hour, take in between breaks, and then charge their phones, because she had a cell phone charger for the car phone charger, whatever. And so she was able to keep the phones juiced. And then, they was able to call me, and I was able to talk to them and things like that. So they fared it out a lot better than some, because there were areas that just had no electricity at all. And then my brother who lives in Houston, my other brother who's less than 10 months younger than me. I don't say the word Irish twin. I was heard that Irish twin is offensive, so I don't say Irish twin. But that's what people would have called us, but we can't say that word, so I would just say my 10-month younger brother. We live. He lives in Houston. He lives next to a hospital. So apparently, some places that are next to hospitals didn't get their electricity cut off, because people they do whatever it takes to get hospitals. I don't know what it is with their electricity, but those hospitals stay on. Hotels are being trashed, which was very unfortunate. They were trying to spike prices and things, and it just didn't make any sense. My mom at one point was going to go to a hotel. One of the rooms they were charging were upwards of $600 at these rinky-dink spots. And then some of those places had electricity go off over there, so they couldn't even open those rooms anymore, which that's what the fuck they get for spiking prices like that during a time of need in this community. It's a lot of terrible people out there who are always trying to capitalize off of people's suffering, which is just terrible. Fuck capitalism. So they're good now, and I'm happy about that. I'm just hearing all the stories about the failures on the state level with the state government. Woo, these states are failing the people. So, Texas is just showing its ass as always. Who cares what Rick Scott or Rick Perry and all them. Rick Perry, I think, who was our former governor. You got Greg Abbott. All those Republicans, they're just terrible people. If they spent more money worried about that rather than trying to save Trump's ass with this election, that we would have been in a better place. So, Texas is always cutting up. So, COVID. I got my second shot. My best man has gotten her second shot. My best woman got her second shot. Shout out to Amanda. Shout out to Jamarcus. We in there, and of course Barry did too. We all got our second COVID shots, and we got Moderna over here, and I must say it's been this journey. I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed to have gotten my vaccination. I'm happy I did. I hear people say all kind of things about the vaccinations, and there's different strains. Listen, from what I hear from the research, getting the vaccination is better than not getting the vaccination if you can get it. Even if there's other strands of things, what I've heard is that getting vaccinated offsets a lot of the potential sickness that can happen. I've also I've read about that actually, that if there's other strands, you won't get sick as much. The symptoms will not be as bad, and you won't die. Potentially, which is important. There has been some stories out there about people having certain cases, but I feel like at the end of the day, these vaccinations are not 100%. Nothing is, but it's a whole lot better. And I would like to believe that I'm on the side of the 99%, 96% people, whatever that won't get hurt, and that's just what you just have to hope for. But I think it's important to get vaccinated, because just like the flu shot, it helps, right? And this is important, especially the way that things are going. Things are looking good. There are some concerns, right? But I feel like we're in a part of this where we're not going back, we're going forward. How fast we go forward is going to determine what we all do. But like, I'm very relieved. In Philadelphia and in Pennsylvania across the board, the numbers continue to go down. I just read a report that this is the first time in recent memory that we went down under 100,000% in cases on a regular. So that's promising. We're just seeing some promise, and that looks good, but it's going to require people not to get lax at this point. Okay, just because you got your vaccination don't mean you don't need to be wearing a mask, right? I'm still wearing a mask. I'm still washing my hands. I'm still social distancing. If anything, I'm even doing it more so now than, well, I was always doing it, right? But I just feel like, I feel like in my head, I'm making a point to be like, listen, just because I got this vaccination don't mean I need to just do whatever. I mean, I feel like it's like getting a contraceptive, right? Just because you feel like you're free for birth control, don't mean that you can't get willy-nilly with keeping up with your birth control, or not wearing the condom the right way. I mean, you need to still practice the necessary precautions, and so that's how I treat this, and like a contraceptive. But no, seriously, I think that's how I treat it, and I think people need to be really smart. If you can get a vaccination, like I said, get one. Just do it, right? So I heard this story in Pennsylvania that apparently in parts of Pennsylvania, there was 100,000 vaccinations that people got their second doses before they got their first dose. And that will require a 40-day delay before they get the second dose again or whatever, because of just the switch around. I'm just like, damn. Like, y'all, I just want people to have confidence in this, but I'm just like, come on. But let me be clear. The second dose is like the full dose. The first dose is like 50% of the vaccine. And then the second dose is like the full, holy grail. Apparently they got that first. So like, woo, So now there's going to be a 40-day gap in between, for everything like that. And now people are trying to figure out, what that's going to look like and stuff of that nature. So it's a lot. I'm recommending a lot of people to go out and see what's going on, and try it out for themselves. But be safe. And that's what I got to say. Now, speaking of things not to be safe about, Trump got acquitted. Now, listen, we knew this was going to happen. If you've been following this podcast, I said it from day one, Trump was going to get acquitted. I knew he was going to get acquitted the moment that the Senate with the Republicans voted not to even do the damn trial. So, as much as I love Stacey Plackett and I love the speeches, and that was a good opportunity for her specifically as a delegate from the Virgin Islands, Trump was not going to get convicted. He was not. Like, we knew it. I knew it. We all knew it. But they had to go through the process. So Trump is basically a free man. And it just, it's just, yeah. It's just a lot. And I was highly, I would say pissed, but I was highly pissed at the white people who were on my social media timelines acting like they were so shocked. I'm so tired of white people pretending they're shocked. I'm so tired. White people, stop being shocked. Stop expressing shock. I think that's the thing. Don't express shock to your black friends, your brown friends, everybody else in between. Don't feel the need to do it. Just don't. Don't do the, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Please don't. It's annoying. It's frustrating. As white people, you know your people better than we should know your people. I mean, I feel like I've been a big study of it, but of white people, because as someone who's experienced racism on a regular basis, I think I've been a good study of white people and their racism. That being said, I really need y'all to stop being shocked, or be shocked, but be shocked in your own room. Don't call me and be like, Ernest, can you believe this? Yes, motherfucker, I can believe this. I absolutely can believe it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do that to somebody next time. Next time a person calls me, a white person, be like, oh my God, can you believe that this racist thing happened? I'm going to say, yes, Actually, I can't. I fucking can't. Because I'm black. I'm going to do just like that. And I don't care how they feel. Just don't do it. On behalf of your other black friends, don't pretend to be shocked. They don't like it when you put on the shock reaction because it's performative as fuck. It's almost like you have it on cue. Kind of like the way that Amy Cooper had her shit on cue. And we're going to get in that ass in a minute. But Trump being acquitted, listen, the good news is I do believe deep down inside that motherfucker is going to get locked up. He is not going to get locked up by the Congress and by the Senate. And let me tell you why. Here's my conspiracy theory. I think that I think that the Republicans are like, listen, we don't have to convict him because convicting him is going to cost us political capital. Now, I'm not saying I agree with this, so please bear with me. I think their logic is we are going to have to deal with the consequences of what Trump does. Like we're going to, if they're scared of him. First of all, they're scared of Trump. So Trump literally had incited an insurrection that could have killed them. Okay? That's how gangster Trump has gotten. And that's how gangster they've allowed him to. So they're scared of Trump. They're scared that if they would have convicted Trump, then all of these crazy ass white supremacists that live in their states, the ones that voted for them, would turn against them and then do a stampede in their place. And as you can see, Trump's evil is so connected within the damn police state that these people were in on it. You had folks that was in the FBI, Secret Service, all these crazies were all connected to it. So Trump has integrated his bigotry and his hatred within all of these powerful security vessels and institutes that people obviously used to think were quote unquote national, like loyalists. These people are not patriots. These people are treasonous, seditious motherfuckers that really want to kill people. And I think where they're standing on is like, if we convict him, we don't even know if our own state powers and troopers and folks are not going to do the same. So they were cowards. They were scared. They were scared that convicting him would lead to hang. Listen, these people said hang Mike Pence. So they were ready to turn and flip. Okay, their loyalty is not to the Republicans. Their loyalty is to Trump. And so anybody who fucks over Trump gets it. So they're scared. They were scared. And that's why I don't think they supported the conviction. Second of all, their logic also was, well, look at all these damn states coming after him for his shit, right? You got Pennsylvania people, Pennsylvania attorneys coming after Trump for the shit he did. You got, Leticia over there killing the game in New York. Okay, she coming with the hammer, and she's not playing with Trump. Okay, when she's coming for everybody. She came for the NRA. She came for Facebook. I mean, she's a boss. She's a boss. And yes, Leticia James. Okay, she is the Attorney General of New York. Okay, and she has been looking into Trump, calling up all types of subpoenas. The moment he gets indicted by New York, it's going down. They're going to get him. And so I think that the Republicans was like, we don't got to get our guy because they're going to get our guy. And so we could be able to get away with this without having to lose political capital. Is it a cowardly ass move? Yes. But is it strategic? Yes. And so that's what they did. I really believe it. And how I know is because our favorite friend, Mitch McConnell, decides that he wants to get his ass in the conversation, voted to keep Trump, protect Trump's ass, and then turn around and then do this whole, oh my goodness, how did he do it? This whole long speech about, yes, did he do it? Did he do it? He did it. He did it. And did he incite it? Yes, he did. He's ashamed. He ought to be ashamed of himself. He ought to be ashamed of himself. That's the kind of energy that Mitch McConnell has. And, listen, as somebody who has seen and heard and have dealt with all of the mayhem that comes from these political folks baiting and switching and doing 180s and all that, it makes so much sense. Because at the end of the day, McConnell wants the history books to show that he did it. But can we shout to the person who was doing the word boxes or whatever for CNN, the Seons or whatever they call it? they were killing it with Mitch McConnell, man. They were like, Mitch McConnell says this right after voting for. I mean, they were just doing the reads, all facts, but the shade and the reads of those things that they were saying in those that third bar, that lower tier bar on the screen was just gold. There was a lot going on. But we continue on with the lot going on. So, everyone's been asking about this Amy Cooper thing. And I wrote about it for the Daily Beast. The Amy Cooper situation is nothing short than just another reminder of how racist the system is. Okay? So, for those who don't know who Amy Cooper is, Amy Cooper, okay. Who? Amy Cooper. Okay. Amy Cooper was a white woman. She's still living. Who lived in New York City. She apparently was a liberal who voted for Hillary Clinton, which, as we're starting to realize, that voting for Hillary Clinton does not automatically define you as some type of beacon of liberal hope. Okay? So there's a lot of things that people don't understand that I've tried to say for many years, is that being a Democrat or being a moderate is like being a Republican in this day and age. There's a lot of people who have tried to put on this whole front about, oh, I voted for Obama. Oh, I voted for this, Democrat or this person, or I like AOC. And I'm sitting there looking at them like, and your point? You know what I'm saying? Like, the point that you're making, because voting politically a certain kind of way does not automatically define, the work that you have. So I just think there's a lot of people that spend so much time talking a lot about what people are doing, what people are not doing. And I feel like that's part of the issues that we haven't seen. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot. It's a lot. And I think part of the problem is that I've spent so much time thinking to myself, like, okay, this is interesting, some of the stuff that's happening. And things happen all the time, and I've found myself hoping that, we can see some of the changes that can happen from it, and maybe some of that can help. Maybe there could be a big difference. But, that isn't some of the issues, if that makes sense. For better or for worse. I'll say this much. I'm just lots of thoughts. I think when I think about people like Amy Cooper, I think of white women who try so hard to get the public's attention. She is someone who thinks that what she does on paper is going to cover up how she feels. A lot of white people think that if they vote a certain way, watch certain movies, listen to certain music, that will divorce them from real racism that they have in their heart, right? And what people don't understand is that racism isn't something that it's not this thing you can unlearn just by taking courses and reading certain books. It's a conscious thing you have to be aware of on a regular basis. And it's something that you can't just take a seminar or just learn overnight and then just think you're going to get it, because it's something that is like, it's a drug, almost like an addiction. Racism is an addiction. It's a real chronic thing, and it's a thing that, that is really impacting people. You know what I'm saying? That I think is a problem, and I just think that is one of the things that I think really impacts people, is that for Black people like myself, when I hear a white person come to me and they tell me something like, oh, I'm trying to support, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, I'm just kind of like, okay, it's good, right? It's good. but it's one of those things where it's an intrinsic thing. It's something you have to work on within yourself. It's something that you just can't seek validation for. It's one of those things where I think there's some white people who are like trying so hard to get the stamp of approval of black people on racism. You're going about it the wrong way. It needs to be a personal, intrinsic thing, an individual thing that you need to work on within yourself, and you need to be able to consistently do the work. It's a lifelong habit. Like like as a man, sexism is something that I can't just wake up one day. I have to actively think about the ways in which my presence as a man can impact the presence of women, and it's something that you just consistently have to unlearn and address and think about. Like when you in certain situations, scenarios, environments, you just have to. I'm conscious about those things, and that's just what it means to be a good person. As a gay cisgender person, I'm oftentimes thinking about all of the things that impact me. As a person who has that kind of privilege, you know what I'm saying? And that's the point, right? Where I'm thinking about the stuff that as a gay man, like in the LGBTQ community, no, there's no secret that not all letters are treated the same, right? Bisexual people, in many ways, some of them people dismiss their experience. I wouldn't say they're completely marginalized as a group. I mean, they do still have the fluidity to integrate within different other communities, but compared to trans people, right? So transgender people, I consider to be the most marginalized within the LGBTQ community because, when we look at especially Black transgender women and men, the death rates, the things that happen to them, they're exponentially higher than, let's say, a white gay man or a white lesbian woman, So there's a lot of intersectionality to consider, but there's also factoring in lived experience based on identity. And I think sometimes we just rush an entire, we stroke an entire brush over communities to think that, oh, well, gay people have their rights. Well, okay, let's break that down. Which gender within that, right? Because women in the LGBTQ community are very much so treated differently than men. And then let's talk about age and race discrimination. All of those intersections matter just like they do in any other community, right? And I think sometimes, again, people don't look at all of the nuances within that. But I say it all to say that anyone who's coming from a privileged community, in any sector of it, has to do the work themselves to address those issues. You have to do that work yourself. No one else can do it for you. No one else can guide you. I mean, do you want to read books? Sure. Watch a documentary, go to a couple events, listen to this podcast. But again, you have to do the work. You have to do the work. Someone like Amy Cooper was not doing the fucking work, clearly. Okay. In May of 2020, she was out there with her dog. And I feel bad about her dog. Okay. Her dog is probably I keep calling dog a person. I mean, dogs are humans. The one individual in this story that I completely have the most sympathy for. And I'll get to the other characters. But basically, she was out here being disrespectful to her dog. A gay Black man walking down named Christian Cooper, as you all know, was bird watching. And he was basically confronting her about what she was doing to her dog. White woman, Amy Cooper, okay, no relation to Christian Cooper, let's be clear, was like feeling some type of way, like, how dare you tell me what to do with my dog? So rather than be a white woman that just was told to stop, she decided she wanted to be damsel in distress, get on the call with the cops, pretend she's crying, pretend she's getting terrorized, to try to get the police to come down. She knew in that moment what the fuck she was doing, okay? The history of Central Park, the exonerated five. I try not to call them the Central Park Five anymore. They're the exonerated five. 5 Black men, okay, 30 years ago, right, back in the 80s, was accused of raping a white woman in Central Park. Wasn't true. Was completely a lie. They got a multi-million-dollar settlement. Their lives were endangered by that. They suffered from a lot of the consequences and trauma that was related to that experience. But they were lied on. And in our immediate past president, Trump, put out a big-ass full-page ad in the New York Times trying to get them executed. Okay? So the Central Park, okay, location has a history. And this woman decides, okay, that she's going to recreate this vulnerability, right, and try to do this in a city like New York, where you know the NYPD has a notorious history of police brutality and racism and targeting black men. She knew what she was doing. It was a choice. She knew it when she was doing it. And the only reason why Christian Cooper did not die, because he had it on camera, and because at the end of the day, the world saw it, and that's why. But we shouldn't always have to have cell phone cameras. And even when we do sometimes have cell phone cameras, nothing happens. I mean, we're going to find out what the outcome is going to be with George Floyd. But look at the things that has happened with people who have had cell phone cameras. It doesn't always exonerate these innocent black bodies and people, right? And give them justice or their families justice. We know this. And it's just, yeah, So Amy Cooper knew what the fuck she was doing. And at first she lost custody of her dog, but white privilege gave her dog back. She does not deserve that dog, okay? And she gets a misdemeanor charge, right? For filing a false police report, right? Which is a crime. It is wrong. You cannot call the police and purposely file a fake report. You can't do that. And, she could have been sued, right? But Christian motherfucking Cooper. I have to say, I didn't go through his experience. I didn't go through his trauma. This is his lived experience. And so I say this with a level of understanding that this is not my situation and he has control and autonomy or how he decided to handle it. But damn it, Christian, because if it was fucking me, I would have went in. Christian decides that he wants to be in his head the Good Samaritan by not even making harm, and he's empathizing for her and practicing this level of sympathy and grace for this woman who is trying to kill him. There's so much wrong with that, and I try to be gentle with him because he is the person who was victimized by her, and so I don't want to question his motives. Part of me wonders, does he have a choice? Does he feel that if he would have went all the way with her, that at the end of the day, that he would have been a target of hate from other people for going in? Would he felt like other white people around him would have pariahed him in his social circles because he was in these gay communities, and there are some huge predominantly white populations. He seems to be very much a mix of all types of groups and circles based on his social media profile and other things. Oh, I do my deep digging. Okay. I wonder if he was thinking about his life and how he appeared to other people. That's one aspect. The other aspect is, and the problem I think is wrong here, is that this sets another continual bad precedent where people begin to think that, once again, black people have to be the over forgiving, the over sympathetic, the over accommodation to white people who do terrible things to them. So even when we are the innocent people, we are victims, right? When we're victims of white supremacy, we have to display this level of grace and sympathy and opportunity for white people. And even when they do us dirty, we still have to give them, they still can give us their ass to kiss. So he didn't press charges. The prosecutors actually pressed charges because their argument was that regardless of what Amy Cooper did to him, what she did was still a problem to the community. And then all of a sudden, the charge got dismissed. The judge dismissed the misdemeanor charge against Amy Cooper this week. And that was based on the argument, right, on Black History Month. Oh my God. But they dismissed the charge, claiming that because she took 5 anti-racial bias classes, that, pretty much they felt like she was on a pathway to healing and recovery. So you mean to tell me that because this woman took 5 sessions of some anti-racism training and courses, that they felt like that was enough for what she did to this man? See, this is the shit I be talking about. This is the shit I'm talking about. So when we say white privilege, people say, what do you mean white privilege? What is white privilege? White privilege. That's white privilege. That's what white privilege is. Because we already know, I don't even got to do this if a black person did it. Fuck that. Black people don't be out here doing shit like this. Not this kind of shit. Okay? This is clearly white shit. Like this thing, the Karen thing, all of this, this is a white woman syndrome. White men, they don't do it because they're too busy to cop on the other line. So the whole, well, why is no one calling a white man Karen? Well, no, white men are the ones that forcing the danger. The white women are picking up the phone, calling for the danger. So there's a relationship between both, right? You got the Chad that's answering the phone call, and you got the Karen that's making the phone call. But I like to say Amy Cooper because I like to call these white people by their name and not hide them under all these little monikers and shit. Amy Cooper made that phone call. She knew what she was doing. She made a deliberate choice to simply say that she needs an education. Okay? To say she needs an education, I don't understand. Okay? And this is when I wrestle sometimes with my thoughts around abolition around jails. And I'm not talking about why people should not abolish jails and prisons. I get that. But there's moments where I'm like, this woman needs to be in jail. But I understand what that means about the police state. But, fuck. Like, something needs to happen. And I just feel like right now she's getting away. Because the assumption that the courts made was that she did this because she was not educated. The excuse for racists is that, and even white people like to believe this bullshit, is that, oh, I am racist because I don't know. I'm ignorant. Okay, the guise of ignorance. I'm ignorant. I don't know. I did this, but I don't know why I did this. Listen, you can read anti-racism books locked up in jail where you fucking belong for doing these crimes. You can do that. You know how I know? Because men like Cassius Clay, I don't know, you know who Cassius Clay became, right? Muhammad Ali. You know, people like Malcolm X, right? People like them who were arrested. People like MLK, who was arrested and wrote letters in a Birmingham jail. They were reading books, enlightening themselves, writing letters, changing life, changing faith, and learning things about themselves while in jail. But all of a sudden, we're trying to act like going to jail isn't going to solve this issue for her. Listen, the reality for her to go to jail is to save the community from her. It's not about whether or not she going to learn something or not, because maybe she needs to do some time. But the thing is to keep her ass off of these streets so she doesn't call the police on another black innocent man. That's the whole point for her. She's a fucking time out. So to set her out free is basically letting a white supremacist get a slap on the wrist to go back and do the shit all over again. And the fucking irony of the fact that we're going to sit up here and pretend that she didn't know what she was doing and all she had to do was take some little courses and read. Well, I thought she was liberal enough, right? I thought this liberal had a Netflix documentary. I mean, did she see the 13th? I mean, my goodness, what more does she need? But this is what they do. This is how they rehabilitate white women in their white fragility and the racism that they commit. And then people say, oh, why are black people so mad? Why are black people so much in outrage? Because of shit like this. Because we know that if any of us would have done the same thing, even though it is not what we do, we're not Karens, we're not Amy Coopers, but if we were, we know what would happen. And I'm so tired of having to say, we know if this was us kind of thing. I'm so tired of it. And I'm tired of white people that quote unquote mean well telling black people how much they understand. Sometimes it's best to be quiet. Sometimes it's better to just condemn these white people publicly and stop calling black people for a thumbs up, a star, a gold star, and a high five. Stop it. Cut it out. Knock it off. Seriously. It's stuff like this that makes it hard for everybody. And a lot of it's making me and my black friends upset. So, speaking of people making me and my black friends upset, Joe Biden. Okay, can we talk about y'all Uncle Joe? Because he's not my uncle. He is not my uncle. Or my cousin. But y'all little Uncle Sleepy Joe Biden, man, what is going on with Biden, okay? He did a town hall for CNN this week. And listen, he was talking a lot of stuff, and he's trying to get these... Listen, the vaccine situation, you know, Operation Warp Speed, all that, good job. If you could get people vaccinated and get this done by July, my complete high five to you. Okay? We did it, Joe. We did it. We did it, Joe. If Joe gets those vaccinations done by July. But that's not what I'm here to talk about with Joe Biden. I'm upset at Joe Biden because Joe Biden made it very clear on this town hall, finally, after getting people excited that $50,000 taking off of student debt in this country for students who are struggling with to pay their college loans, which is hurting my friends and hurting people I know. He like, that's not going to happen pretty much. He's not going to have that. He's not going to do that. He just said it just like he's not doing that. He's not going to take the $50,000 off. He's committed to $10,000, which will just get you, shipping, handling, and tax off of your loans, but won't actually do a real dent for folks who's deep in it, right? $50,000, some serious money. $50,000. The joke about the $50,000 situation is that a lot of Americans, that $50,000 would end a lot of other people's debts. Like, a lot of people need to hit that pinnacle, but the $10,000 is too low. The $50,000 is a good sweet spot for folks who have it and those who don't. But it can easily change the economy and bring the economy back to speed because folks will be able to spend more money on other things rather than put their money paying loans to a system that isn't going to get any better. But, the scam of it all. So he's, been creating some excuses, said that he needs Congress to pass it, which, the Republicans, I don't know what they're going to do. Clearly, they're not going to support it. The Senate might, who knows? But he's like, if it comes to his desk, basically he's going to let Congress do, which is what I think he's like throwing out to the shits and to the dogs, because I don't think he believes Congress, especially the Republicans, will commit to doing it, which means that it's not going to happen, which means that, the hopes and dreams of so many people. And listen, Chuck Schumer, okay, majority leader, Chuck Schumer, all right? Senator Chuck Schumer from New York, he's Amy Schumer's cousin, problematic Amy Schumer. But he's been pushing hard for this, and I think Nancy Pelosi likes it too, but they've been really trying to get this done. It's the one thing they can agree on, but you know why? Because this is something that's probably impacting, not maybe their kids, but probably somebody else's kids down the road, and I think that is, their families are feeling it. Because this is not a black issue. This is not a brown issue. This is an American issue. This is an American crisis. I think they're calling it the student loan debt crisis, I think is they call it. It's a crisis. And, Biden being moderate Biden, moderate Joe the moderate, he's just doing what he do best. Always trying to find an opportunity to give us one thing and take back another. That's what they do. Can you ever think of a time where the moderates didn't give us one thing and gave us one thing but took over the other? It's like buying a kid, a PlayStation, but then don't give him the controllers. It's like, giving me peanut butter, but then telling me to get the jelly elsewhere. It's those type of things that frustrate me. That was me banging on this thing over here. I was so upset. Because I just, moderates are going to moderate. That's all I'm going to say. Just moderates are going to moderate. And, I just hope that this is not the end of that conversation. I would really like to see progress come in that situation, really. I really do. For real. Real rap. Joe. So, yeah, let's talk about it. I think we need to talk about it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Mr. Timberlake. It's so funny because I thought that I was going to be done with that conversation last week, but then y'all saw what happened last Friday, and here y'all go. In my phone, DMing me, text messaging me on Facebook, Instagram. I don't have a Snapchat anymore, but y'all was all over the internet, Twitter and all. I couldn't even say anything before everybody was. But I was like, y'all, listen. I have Google Alerts set up on my phone for certain topics and things, and so anytime this stuff comes back up, I get attached to it because people hyperlink my articles that I wrote back like nearly 5 years ago. I'm always in the conversation. I'm a part of pop cultural history, y'all. I'm a part of the conversation. I'm a part of the history of Justin Timberlake, and a part of music history, a part of pop culture history in this regard. I'm a part of the story. It's wild. Some of you all saw, if you haven't listened to my preview episode, the sneak peek episode, I talk about the Justin Timberlake thing in depth. I don't want to get too much details about what happened in the past. I have written a piece for the Daily Beast that came out this week that talks about that. Basically talking about like what happened. So let's go back. Framing Britney Spears. The New York Times presents Framing Britney Spears was a documentary that's on Hulu right now. And they've been airing it on, I believe, on FX as well. But I encourage you all to watch it. It's on Hulu. It's good. It's incredible. It's a great documentary that really dives deep into the rise and fall of Britney Spears in the public eye. And it really centers around her conservatorship. So we got the context of how she got into that situation. And it's devastating. It's powerful. They did a really good job piecing things together. I mean, there has been some op-eds talking about how they would have wanted them to go more into the class dynamics of how Britney was not just slut shamed, but also shamed for being white trash, is how they were framed, like trailer trash, because she grew up in Kentwood, Louisiana, which you all know is a real deep red Southern, part of the South. She, they didn't really get into that aspect, but I feel like it was implied. I mean, I personally felt like it was implied that that she po. She wasn't poor, she was po. And her family, it's the traditional stage mom gypsy story, right? The stage mom, but this time the stage dad. They have dreams of the girl getting stardom. She's super talented. Family needs her. They are codependent. She falls into a life of drugs and liquor and sex. I mean, it's that story. It's that American tragic star story, right? She's alive, right? But a lot of what saved her is kind of what's hurting her right now, which is this conservatorship from her father, Jamie Spears. And a lot of this sparks what is known now as the Free Britney movement, which this podcast, this duo, these two girls, who got a really great profile in the Los Angeles Times, basically created a podcast about Britney Spears' interesting, bizarre Instagram posts, which I think I've talked about a little bit. Like, her Instagram post is so interesting. People have tried to figure them out. It's like trying to crack the Da Vinci Code. She makes little messages. People look at little videos. You don't know if she's writing them or if someone else is writing them. But even the videos, she like my friend Amanda, like she'll message me. She's like, "Is Britney okay?" And send me these videos. And I've been like, I've been a big Britney fan since I was little. And I just was look at her Instagram post. And I'm just like, what are you saying? Why you sound like that? What's going on? I get a little concerned. But I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there. But I do want her to be free. And I think that the financial control. But there's been some movement. Like, for example, she's got a bank to now help look over her finances. So her father is slowly but surely losing control of her, which is good for her. Because, a lot of these men that lost their mind and then cut up out here in the industry. And I don't see them getting conservatorships. Okay? So that just goes to show you how sexism works in the music industry and in the entertainment industry overall. But anyway, the notable thing was that in the documentary, it talked about Justin Timberlake, which I talked about last week, who basically profited off of Britney's demise. I mean, in the earlier phases, right? Like the bullying that she received in the press because he was claiming she cheated on him. He got on some radio talking about sleeping with her and the conversations about her virginity. And just really let the media pile on her and this narrative about how she cheated on him and did him dirty. And then he did the Crimea River video where he had the Britney Spears lookalike and his album was called Justified. Just a lot of bullshit, man. He was trash, yo. He was trash. And you all sat there and ate that up and celebrated him. And I was too young to really, I mean, that song came out in 2013, 14. So I was like 12. It was about 12, 13. When Crimea River, when Justified, when Solo Justin had really taken off. So I was very, very young. I was an innocent. I didn't really like the song when it came out. I just felt like it was always something about it that was very whiny to me. And I don't know. I never really got into Crimea River. And I didn't know, I didn't really remember what it was all about. I just remember it was like, okay, I guess it was a very basic ass song. I remember Timberland was on the song. Timberlake did a lot of songs with Justin Timberlake. But I just remember being like, I thought the beat was cool. And I found out Marsha Ambrosia, who follows me on Twitter, and she's a great musician, she sung the background harmonies. That's not his vocals. Those are Marsha Ambrosia's vocals. But anyway, he basically was actively working at that time to ruin her. In addition to, of course, as you know, Janet Jackson at the 2004 Super Bowl. So ironically enough, what people don't remember about all of that is that when Nipplegate happened, which is basically he pulled the nipple, it was supposed to be a pasty showing, and he pulled it off.
when they went on stage, Janet got blackballed. And one of the things that happened to her was that she was not allowed to be at the Grammys that year. So there were protesters and people outside the Grammys booing because they wanted Janet to be there. And so there were protesters and demonstrators protesting outside the Grammy Award ceremony. Justin Timberlake, however, the one who actually showed her, breasts to the world, pulled it off, he attended that night and accepted a Grammy for Best Male Pop Vocal Performance. For what song? Cry Me a River. So all of this is full circle, right? He gets up there and he accepts his award and basically, plays the innocent white boy, plays the victim. And that's what he always do. Well, that happened in 2004. 2016, 12 years later, after many years in interviews since that situation, where he continued to throw them under the bus and dismiss what happened and act like he was the innocent guy in the situation, he always likes to play like he's at the wrong place at the wrong time. That he's the guy that got poor misfortune and shit. He's really pushed that, and that's become his thing. That's what he's lived for. And I don't, I feel some type of way about that, as you all know. So, we had a Twitter exchange, and words were exchanged, and, things had been said, for a lot of the nonsense that he did. And, I did feel some type of way. What happened was that he, it was 2016, of course, the BET Awards happened. I confronted him about would he apologize to Janet, and stop culturally appropriating. You all know how he culturally appropriates, so I have to get into that. Basically called me an old sweet soul, basically told me bye. Got dragged for it on Twitter by Black Twitter. Other people like Charmaine the God made me Ducky the Day next day for defending him, for not defending him, but for getting his ass. Whoopi Goldberg on A View the following day said we all appropriate, which clearly Whoopi Goldberg, Sally, which I love her, she's the EGOT winner, but clearly she doesn't understand how cultural appropriation works, but I've also stood by Justin Timberlake's side. A lot of media outlets erased me, my name, but shut up my tweet. And it basically, in a way, framed me like I was just some random Twitter user rather than an actual informed journalist that was making a fair critique against Justin Timberlake. And Justin Timberlake had went on Twitter and said that, he didn't understand why he decided to engage the way he did with that quote-unquote tweet, aka my tweet with me. And then did the I love everybody out, one love, one world, and just basically did an all lives matter stunt. That was a tough time for me a little bit. I was still in the public spotlight. I mean, there were things that did come from it that were positive. Black media supported me. I ended up getting a contract with BET to write for them. And local media was pretty cool to me. But nationally, I mean, people did find out, they framed me as a troublemaker. They framed me as this Black person on Twitter just starting shit. And I never really got to get my voice told in that moment. I mean, years later, clearly look where I'm at now, but I never really got to really speak about what happened at that moment because everything kind of happened in that moment and then that was it. So then 2018 comes, he creates, the album Man in the Woods, and his song Say Something, which is about the Twitter incident we had, which featured Chris Stapleton, that country singer from Zach Brown Band or whatever that thing. I don't listen to country like that. Y'all can tell. I listen to some, but not that. He basically said the song was about the situation. He did an interview on Beats, some podcast music show with some guy named last name Lowe or whatever, and talked about the situation and, really was just, again, saying to make this song about it. And basically another, attempt to try to justify, no pun intended, his behavior. And I wasn't consulted. I didn't know he was doing a song about it. It's his story too, his experience. He decided to make it a song that got nominated for Grammy, was one of the better songs off the album I heard. I didn't listen to the album, but that's what I heard. The song got in the top 10 of Billboard charts, and he capitalized yet again on an incident that involved him and a Black person or him and someone else. And, here we are now at this point. And on last Friday, he gave an apology to Janet Jackson and Britney, which I felt like was kind of tacky. Like, why are you doing a two double package apology? Like, I feel like both of these women deserve their own individual apology separately. And it's so many things to be said about this. Like, okay, he gives this apology, talk about sexism in the industry and racism in the industry and misogyny and all this and how he benefited from that system. I'm like, dude, I said all this shit to you nearly 5 years ago. You had an opportunity to apologize then. He, in that apology, which was like this long diatribe that was on Instagram, decides that he wants to expand this narrative, expand this conversation, and make this shit so much more than what it fucking is. And I'm sitting here like, okay, so what are we saying here? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we saying here? What point are we trying to prove here in this moment? And I feel like that's the issue that I've come across with him, is that he tells one story, but then he doesn't dive deep. But he wasn't planning to. The reality is that it's the way that the apology is written. This is my biggest concern with it, or annoyance with it. Not really concerned at this point, but like, he makes it seem like all these years he was lost in confusion. He was just completely not aware. And the truth of the matter is that's not true. He had an opportunity. Like people are like trying to be like, oh, this was nearly 20 years ago. Everybody should just let it go. No, what people don't understand is that he was asked to give an apology and he publicly dismissed it. And that was less than 5 years ago. So I'm happy that, Janet and Brittany aren't necessarily giving him any attention or giving him that absolution publicly. Because a lot of white people, especially a man like Justin Timberlake, a lot of white men want not only to make a public scene and make it about them, but they also want to get this validation in this level of acknowledgement for what they do, right? He wants to get some gesture, some approval, some validation so he can move on with his life. Because by putting it out publicly, the pressure then gets on Brittany or Janet, right? Both of those women to then have to respond to his response, to have to accept his apology, or to, have to, give him more rent in their, more space in their heads. It's not cool. It's not cool. It's not fair to them. It's not about him. And I think the fans, of course, put that pressure on Justin, but I don't think that the apology was what they really want. I think what they want people to be like is fuck Justin and move on. I mean, there is a lot of talk about cancel culture and all that shit, but like, man, fuck that. Like, at the end of the day, this man has made millions and millions and millions of dollars while Janet and Brittany have suffered suffered because of the harm he made. Like, Janet Jackson directly was harmed by the fact that Justin Timberlake let her get thrown under the bus. And the fact that he was able to have all these interviews and sit up here and talk about her when she had to she was banned off of airwaves and things. Her music was banned. She took financial hits. She was exiled almost, and if it wasn't for her fans, the power of her impact, Janet would not be able to recover and away from that. And I think people don't understand that. Like, her career was deeply damaged. This shit that Justin Timberlake is dealing with, like, for a couple of days on Twitter, does not compare to what happened to Brittany or Janet. So, I'm happy that I was in the right side. I'm happy that I was on the right side of history. And let me say what I mean by that. That Justin couldn't, end me in the same way that he tried to end Brittany and Janet. That by the time I came into the picture and confronted him, the way that he dismissed me didn't have a lasting impact on my career. And that was because we're on social media. It's because we have so many people that speak up, right? And that I also had a platform where I could confront him and that I could tell my story. And that there were Black media that allowed me the opportunity to tell my story and to continue to move on and do well. And so when these things happen like this, I'm constantly bombarded with people, who want to ask me what happened and this and that. And it was like,
here we go again. Another day where I have to address this white boy who just won't be accountable. So I hope personally that now that we're about to be on the 5th anniversary of this entire situation, at least with me and him, that this aspect of my, I will tell that part, but I hope that this aspect begins to wrap up, because it's like every time he do something with Janet, I gotta get a call, I gotta get a notification, I gotta get a Google alert, and I'm over it. But I wrote a piece about what happened and what I thought, and as somebody who asked him to do it before, what happened, and I got paid. And listen, he ain't the only one getting paid to talk about this shit. So, equity. So speaking about equity, and I am chewing on my Goji apple cider vinegar gummies, which I'm in love with. Sidebar. Yes, it's those red bottles that you see on Facebook. Nothing compares to them. So good. Right. So let's get into this diversity equity thing. As you know, at the Philadelphia Inquirer is one of the most known publications in Philly Mag, and it's wait, let me take that back. It's one of the known newsrooms across the country. Philadelphia Inquirer is. It's the biggest newsroom in Philadelphia. It's one of the known in the country. It's got Pulitzer prizes, over 20 Pulitzer prizes they've won over the years. They've been around since the 1800s. I mean, the Inquirer is old and it's prominent. But they have diversity and inclusion issues that are like nobody's business. I mean, they just suck. They suck at diversity and inclusion. It's an embarrassment to the city. It's an embarrassment to journalism. It's just god awful. And let me be clear. There's a lot of, racism and issues in other newsrooms. Let me just say that for starters. Like every newsroom I've worked in that's not owned by a black editor, publisher, business owner, whatnot, does not have the best representation. That's a fact. But I think the problem with the Inquirer is, and I want to say this, is that they have had the resources and the ability to do better, and they have choose to fuck it up. They've chose to not get it right. And pretty much, to be clear, last week the Inquirer had a diversity and inclusion audit, and the report was written by some legendary folks at Temple University's Klein College of Media and Communication. The co-authors was the late NABJ president, Brian Monroe, which you all know was a PABJ member who I basically, gave my condolences to a couple episodes ago early this year. And the Temple faculty member, Andrea Wenzel, they both co-wrote this, co-authored this report. And this was before Monroe passed away. So before he died, he basically knew that the Inquirer about to be some deep shit. How about a foreshadow? So basically, this report, confirmed that the paper has a racially biased culture, low retention of employees of color, and white-focused editorial practices. For me, this big ass report, 118 page long. Okay, it's 118 pages long. Goodness. Here's some of the crazy stats. So they said that only 26.4% of Inquirer stories include a black source or subject, compared with 58.8% for white subjects and sources. And they said that of that 26.4% of black stories and sources, 53% of those stories were about sports. Yeah, you heard that right. Most of the stories about black people in the Philadelphia Inquirer pertains to sports. And I bet you the other half pertains to crime, child, because I don't see them anywhere else. Going along with this, the audit also noted that only 13.6% of Inquirer staff are black, compared to 77.3% white. And let me tell you why that is crazy.
Philadelphia has 44% of its population being black. There are more black people in Philadelphia than any other racial group. We're not the majority of the entire population, but we are the plurality when it comes to representation of individual races. There are more black people in Philadelphia than any other racial group. The co-chairs of this audit said in the report, and this stuck with me, quote, "The Inquirer tends to cover white people the most," and quote, "White reporters tend to write about white people even more." That's sad. So I wrote a guest op-ed in the Inquirer. Yes, as president of the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, I was furious with this report. I was very upset. I was disappointed. I wasn't shocked because I think, like I said earlier, to be shocked at this point is to pretend like you don't know your history. It's to pretend that you don't care about history. It's to suggest that history isn't ours. Like, it's something wrong here, right? And so I wasn't shocked. I was upset, disappointed, frustrated, pissed. Those are the proper, adjectives to describe my feelings about the situation. So I wrote this guest op-ed. It's online. It's also in print. It's in the print paper, but it was printed on Thursday. The Inquirer needs a racism intervention. That was the headline of my op-ed, and I wrote it as the president of the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. I wanted readers to know that I wanted people to know that in my position as PABJ president, this is nothing new to us about the Philadelphia Inquirer. I come from a legacy of leaders and presidents who've worked at the Inquirer, who have put their foot up the Inquirer's ass to get better with diversity and inclusion, and have been given the short end of the stick. And I hope that in my administration, the changes at the Inquirer happens this time for real, and they are lasting changes. And that's something that I'm passionate about because this is the city's paper of record. This is our biggest newspaper in the city. They have like a big staff. Like, this is power. They have the biggest newsroom in print in this city. I mean, this is a big damn deal. And I think too often, it's easy to say, we don't got to read the Inquirer anymore. We could just support our own. And I do believe that we should support our own and do that. But we also have to be realistic about the fact that when you have a city paper like the Inquirer, they are the archival record of our history, sadly. Not all of Black history, not all of Philadelphia history, but unfortunately, when you look back at newspaper headlines from the 80s, the 70s, the early 1900s, you often refer to newspaper headlines. You often refer to what was in journalism at that time. Our generation, the generation of in the future, ahead of us, will look at what was those articles that are still going to be available online. Where are those hyperlinks? They're going to look at those things. That whoever controls the pen controls the history, and that's the important part. Whether it's you signing a legislation or whether you write an article, we're the archivists. I'm a journalist and I'm someone who basically archives history. I'm not just reporting, but in many ways, what I'm writing and putting out there is going to be the history that will shape and educate and inform people of how we lived at the time. And if the people who are doing that are majority white in cities that are majority Black and brown, then they're not telling the history right, they're not being accurate, and that's the problem. And so you have to come at this situation as a journalist as not only just being someone the president reporting, but also being a historian to some degree. And so if you look at the stories like that, you hold it with a level of focus and responsibility to make sure you get it right, but also make sure that you understand that this is bigger than you. It's bigger than that moment. It's bigger than your feelings. It's bigger than all of that, because future generations, including the current, will refer to those articles and that news as a way to get a better picture of the history that may shape how they make decisions for the future. It's that damn serious. I really think people don't understand the importance of what those headlines mean. I mean, this year is going to be the 20th anniversary of 9/11. We are going to look back at what those headlines look like. We're going to read those reported stories, and we're going to wonder, how did people respond and react? What kind of quotes they use? What kind of sources they have? We're going to look back at all of that history, and that's going to inform us about how we should be and how we should think. And it did at that moment, but it continues to, right? I think about all those legendary headlines, when Obama became the first black president, in 2008, when he was elected. Those headlines still matter. Those stories of that day still matter, right? Think about this when Kamala won, for vice president. Those headlines. When Trump got impeached. I still have a copy of the New York Times during Trump's first impeachment. Like, these are moments in history. Monica Lewinsky, Bill Clinton. The war in Iraq being declared. The Parkland shooting. There's so many moments we've had in American history and even in the world that headlines and stories and all of those things are part of that time. It archives that time. And so the conversation around diversity and inclusion and journalism isn't so much of a conversation just about temporary hiring practices or current coverage issues. It's really about archiving what the future looks like and what the future can be. And it starts now. So that's why I go hard about diversity, equity, inclusion. Personally, that's why I'm not just somewhere sitting around just only thinking that this is an issue that only white people have to address. But it's a responsibility for all of us to confront them, to do better on. It's a movement. The movement isn't just around policy and legislation. It has to be around journalism and coverage and equity. It has to be a 360 approach. We can't just have it being like this is what I see, or this is what I know, or this is what I heard. We have to be holistic about this. We have to think about this on so many different levels. And if we don't do that, history is doomed to repeat itself, as you all know. You know this. It's doomed to repeat itself. We will fail ourselves in this process. And so that's very important to me. That's why I do what I do on that tip. So there's been a lot of people asking me questions about this as well. I'm going to tell you part of why I wrote the piece, and people asked about this, and I had to keep it 100. There's a quote I say in the piece, and it says, "Nothing about us without us," which is a popular quote that people have said lately when it comes to issues around diversity and inclusion. You can't do any of this work about a community if you don't have the community involved. You cannot do anything about Black and brown people without Black and brown people being involved. You can't. And I think the failures of groups like the Philadelphia Inquirer and other groups that present themselves as advocates and allies, this positioning, is rooted in that. You know what I'm saying? That is important. I think that's the most important part about this, is that you cannot have when I hear programs say, we want to do diversity and inclusion events, we want to do this, we want to do that, I say to myself, well, why? What are you doing? What's going on? They position themselves as, well, I'm doing this because of X, Y, and Z. I'm doing this because of blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying, well, who's involved in this? We're going to come up with this. We're going to come up with this plan, and and we're going to get back to you. That's what I get. I think the frustration is that I'm often told what people are going to do versus being included in the planning process, the implementation process. If that makes sense. Like, I get, so what will happen is that white people, because I'm just going to be frank, white people come to Black people, they say, there's a diversity inclusion problem. we're going to work on this plan and we're going to do these things. And let me say about a we as in them, the white people, not us, right? We're going to do all this stuff and we're going to do it and we're going to come back to you and tell you what we're doing. That's when everything goes south. I can't tell you how many times I've been in meetings with different groups, right, who are trying to do diversity inclusion, and they just want to be amongst the presence of Black people to tell them what they're doing. And we're supposed to be like, oh my goodness, that sounds fabulous. Yes, Ken. Yes, Becky. This is a great program. Go out there and fix racism without us being in the picture. And then come back to us and tell us how it went. Yeah. That's how they want. That's exactly how it goes. And at some point in time, you have to then take a step back and say, excuse me, how do you plan to solve this problem without us being in the picture? How do you plan to do that? Because one, we're not going to do it for free, but two, we're not going to do it. We're not going to be on the sidelines just sitting somewhere and just being like, oh, okay, well, do your thing, get back to us, and expect this not to work. And so I feel like in certain cases, in my opinion, this is just my personal observation as someone who has been serving on the PFJ board now for a couple of years, that based on what I have experienced with the Inquirer, I feel like they were talking at us rather than talking with us about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was almost like they were sitting from a podium, giving us a lecture, telling us about all the things they were going to do, and then was looking at us like, and what are your thoughts? What do you think? And I'm looking like, well, first of all, it's obvious you made your mind up. It's obvious these are final decisions. It's obvious that none of this stuff has anything to do with the current work or changes that you want to make. And I think part of that is a control freak mechanism, because I do believe that when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion, a lot of these white organizations are control freaks. They want the appearance of looking like they've done something, but they don't want to be told they're not shit. They don't want to be told that what they're doing is failing and it sucks. And they don't want to be told on what they need to do to be better. I have ideas of what I think can be better. I'm not going to share all of them because they're valuable. And I think they're not, I think I would rather share them directly with the people who are going to need them. But I do think, and I will say this, and I have said this publicly, that at this point, there needs to be some changes. Like, some people need to resign. There needs to be room made for people of different identities and backgrounds that can add a perspective that isn't being sought after. You can't just sit up here and consistently keep on keeping on with the keeping on, right? It just can't keep being, we're going to keep having the same 5 or 6 people attempt to do diversity, equity, inclusion, keep failing at it, and then going back to the drawing board, failing again, and then no one's saying how they should fall apart, how they should go, or how they should resign. No one's actually doing what's happening. And I find that, to be problematic. You know what I'm saying? I think that's part of the issue that I'm seeing, is that we continue to see this issue set off. And, it is what it is, right? We've become used to this, and yeah. Lots been going on. I'll just say this. And for all these people that's been talking about this, my goodness. I just feel like, look, it's 2021. I just hope that, Black people, I just hope that Black people demand more. I hope that organizations that claim that they want to do diversity, equity, inclusion for people like myself, for the community, I want to see those changes. I just need to see them. And I'm tired of those conversations. I'm tired of the dialogue. There's got to be more than just dialogue. I'm just tired of I'm past the dialogue era, if that makes sense. It's just, it's a lot. This is a lot. And yeah. So, moving along, people have asked me about Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh, as you know, was the racist radio personality. He wasn't a reporter at all. Good Lord. Racist, bigoted, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, violent, ignorant, narcissistic, egotistical radio personality who spewed a lot of false, misleading information on various marginalized communities, political rivals, and other folks who just didn't deserve it. He spoke ignorantly about children, people with disabilities, people who he didn't even know. And he received one of the highest civilian honors by a racist white supremacist who was currently in political office at the time, Trump. So Rush Limbaugh, he passed away at 70 years old. And when he did that, I was having a ciabatta sandwich that had sun-dried tomatoes and some incredible spinach on provolone. And let me tell you about that sandwich. That sandwich was really good. I got it from Marathon because I've been using the Caviar app, and the Caviar app has this new DoorDash pass, which allows you to get discounts and free delivery if you spend $12. So if you spend $12 or more, you can get free delivery. So the sandwich with fries was like $13, and so I ordered that. And I was able to hit my jackpot, which I love. So I've been ordering off a Marathon for Caviar because it hits that sweet spot. Because if because the one thing I would say is that when you look at some of these delivery companies, like Uber Eats wants you to spend over $15, but then Uber Eats don't have anything that's $15. Everything is like either super, super low or super, super high. So they screw you over there with that. But I think Caviar has been doing a good job with like finding these like touchstone points, like $12.50 for something. So then you really get that benefit of keeping whatever you're ordering like under $15 or something. So that's always been a plus. That's the sweet spot with delivery if you can get it under $15. So the sandwich is really great. I enjoyed it. And that's what I was doing when this news had happened. And so with my friends. So I posted that Rush Limbaugh is dead, and people, asked about what we have for lunch and what we're having for dinner, and things because, the food and lunch we was eating was so important, and more important than whatever that news was about, because I just felt like why would we spend so much time and energy talking about him when there's good food in Lancaster and some really great, fabulous photos in Lancaster that I took pictures of so much of the food I ate from Plow, which include this delicious beet salad. I put up these really good wings that they had this really like spicy butter that they put on it, like it was like called spicy honey, and the wings were delicious, and it was hot. It was like called hot honey, and it was really, really good. And then what else did I eat? I had that. I had a po' boy one day that had this like really good crispy shrimp. And I didn't even think Lancaster can make po' boys. And that was really interesting because I was just like, oh snap, they really out here, keeping the shrimp crispy. And I'm just like, ooh. But it was good. It was good for, po' boys are in New Orleans. They didn't make a New Orleans like po' boy. They tried, but it was cute for what it was supposed to do for lunch. And they had a chopped chicken by Ming sandwich, which was so good. Again, they all use the same bread. It was just like Lancaster bread that they use for every sandwich. And to be politically correct, those sandwiches, like a banh mi supposed to be in a baguette, like a French baguette with, all the carrots and the peppers and the stuff. But they made their own Lancaster version where they put on that regular, like ciabatta type bread they were using, I guess. But it was really fresh. It was really good. But yeah, I love that lunch. That was oh my God, it was so good. I really loved it a lot. And I thought it was so delicious. And, thought it was fabulous. And it was a really great lunch. And for those people who were like, trying to figure out what I was going to say about Rush Limbaugh, I mean, my lunch today was really good. And what I had over the past couple of days were really delicious. And, rest in piss. All right. So okay. So Philadelphia has a gun violence issue. We all know this already. The gun violence issue is crazy, as you all know. We're already 45%. We're already 45% higher in our gun violence at this point now than we were a year ago, right? A year ago at this same time, a year ago, we were 45% less. This year, we're 45% more. It's crazy. I think that Philadelphia's gun violence is going to be the highest it's been, and it's going to be ever. I think we're going to hit the market this year because our elected officials and the way that they're treating the gun violence issue in Philadelphia has been piss poor. It's pathetic. It's just mediocre. And it's just not good. It's not. I can't even, listen, don't frame me as a negative Nancy, because that is exactly what I'm not. What I think people have to understand, okay, is that this issue is going to require a state of emergency. And a lot of people were like, oh, don't say state of emergency. Don't say that. Listen, that is where we're at right now. A call for a state of emergency is the appropriate call for action for something of this magnitude at this level. You cannot treat this like it's just some small little miniature snowball effect. You cannot treat it that way. I'm sorry. We're past the point of just like these toothless resolutions. And I'm not saying that, Councilwoman Philadelphia Councilwoman Jamie Gautier's resolution is toothless. I'm just saying that it's what that resolution is calling for is something that is pretty much practical, basic things that should be already happening. Unfortunately, because that is not happening with our current Mayor Jim Kenney, okay, who's the mayor of Philadelphia, because that is not happening, then what has to happen is that someone like, Gautier has to then propose something that kind of resets the table so things can get somewhat back to normal. And for all of that, okay, this city had a very, very embarrassing moment. And this is embarrassing not for the person who did this. So let me put that out there. This person did something that was very, bold, courageous, and just terrifying. So there's an older senior black man. His name is Jamal Johnson. Jamal Johnson is a Philadelphia resident. He is a anti-gun violence activist. He has been speaking out against gun violence in Philadelphia. He's a senior man. Apparently he's related somewhat to Umar Johnson or Dr. Umar Johnson. But let's be clear, he's no Umar Johnson and he's just related to him. But he clearly is a better person than him, in my opinion. So Jamal Johnson, did a hunger strike, okay, for 26 days. He started around MLK Day. And there was lots of press, okay, lots of journalists, specifically black journalists, that like Layla Jones and Daryl and all these other people who jumped in and covered this issue and really talked about it, right? This was an issue that shocked people because, now let me be clear, there's been some hunger strikes that have taken place. The problem is that we have not seen a lot of people in recent years get involved with this. And that's been the crazy part. We are now at 75 homicides in Philadelphia as of right now. Those numbers can change sooner or later. But we've seen a lot of, just unnecessary gun violence and things that has happened. And it's been very hard to see this man, right? This black man go through this. This reporter, Daryl Murphy, he was one of the people that broke the initial story about it. And there was also coverage at CBS 3 and other places. But somebody had to go on a hunger strike to try to get the mayor to acknowledge Gautier's resolution. And to me, why is that a thing? Why is that a thing? Why are we sitting up here? Why would someone have to go through a hunger strike in order to get a mayor of a major American city to sit the fuck down and acknowledge a resolution, okay, that was about gun violence? Now, Kenny, because Kenny likes to not read, Kenny likes to lie, Kenny ran around town acting like the resolution was calling for a state of emergency. He was suggesting that, in his talk about the state of emergency, that there was going to be over policing, and there was going to be all of this, lockdowns, and people can't congregate. Trying to pretend he gives a fuck about social justice. Now, for those who've been keeping score, as you know, Kenny has defended and stood beside Philadelphia Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw. Yes, that crazy woman who is still in office, still in her position, her post, who has not resigned after admitting to tear gassing various Black communities and lying about the nature behind why she tear gassed those people in the first place. This is unacceptable. And he stood by her. And he actually gave her the authority to do it. So now this is the same mayor who now wants to turn around, and all of a sudden he's got this heart. All of a sudden he's got this heart. He's got this thing in him that's propelling him to say, well, what about the over policing? Wait a minute. Hold up. If you are a supporter of the police department and you're a supporter of our police, if you're suggesting that you're concerned about over policing, then that's you inferring that the police department will be dangerous. But I thought you support the police department. I thought you support, Police Commissioner Outlaw, which, again, Outlaw has lived up to her last name, y'all. But you're supporting that. And so I'm just sitting here trying to figure out, how are you supporting, Outlaw, and then at the same time talking about you're worried about over-policing? Because that's to suggest that you see them as a threat to the people like the people see them as a threat. Which means if you see them as a threat in that kind of way, why are you not reprimanding them or punishing them for the behaviors that they've been doing? Oh, because you're talking out the side of your neck. Oh, because you don't want to, acknowledge that the police in this city are trash and they're fucking up, because you don't want to declare a state of emergency, because you know that doing that will reveal that your administration has failed to address this issue without having declared an emergency. So this is about ego. This is about political power. This is what's driving him, in my opinion. And I think that there's every statistic, everything points to the fact that the city actually needs to have this state of emergency. Like, I can't even bullshit a bologna sandwich with you all. It needs to happen because at this point, things are completely out of control. And so it's almost like he wants to act like, oh, we're going to lose a lot of things, but people are losing their lives. And so it's just very interesting, because he hasn't been transparent about the plan. He hasn't really shared much about it, and people are losing their faith. So, what do I know? I'm just a person that's going to write about it. But to make matters worse, because I need to make sure this gets clear. Jamal Johnson ends his 26-day hunger strike, which he was committed to doing and continue to do, when the mayor finally meets him on the 26th day and basically tells him he's going to commit to this resolution, but he doesn't commit to declaring a state of emergency for the city, which is a big failure. And he basically goes down there, and this is like this scripted, very amateuristic lens of how they framed this story. And so pretty much what had happened is that he was out there, and this media personality, I don't think I would call them a journalist. I don't think what they do is journalism in this regard, but I would say that they are a content producer. A content producer is a more accurate way of describing it. And they filmed it on their cell phone. And I think they may have had a professional camera, but they posted a video clip on social media of the mayor, acknowledging his resolution with Jamal Johnson there. In my opinion, I thought it was cringeworthy how it was done, because this wasn't something, this was very much staged. I looked at two different versions of how it was being filmed, and you can see the mayor is getting a position and they have to be right there. And it's sad, because it's like, I don't know if I feel sorry for the host in the sense that they really wanted to appear to be doing a good thing, but it's almost like it was such a very set up situation where those people who are like co-signing this, I feel like it's almost like they're trivializing the seriousness of what really needs to happen. This was a city official, right, who comes down here in a damn, North Face jacket, okay, and these horrible dad genes. And they're talking to this man in this way that just feels dehumanizing and disrespectful and insult, right? That you come down here, this man has starved himself for 26 days, and you're pretty much doing this, we're going to work on some things. You could have done this sooner. This man had to go without for that long. I mean, that's 26 days. That's nearly 4 weeks. That's nearly a month. A month. That's about a month of this man waiting out here in the cold with no jacket on, out there outside of City Hall. And people out here don't understand the severity of what happened here. And so the mayor doesn't get a pat on the back. What the mayor did wasn't anything heroic. The fact that, this media personality in this video is like, I love you, mayor, and all this fandom, it's like, what? This is not it. First of all, it's not journalism, but it's not it. This is not how this gets done. And it's sad because a lot of people, well, let me clarify that. Not many people, because there hasn't been much, I would just say this about Philadelphia. And this is just me just being straight honest. There is a very blurry line between journalism and media content producing in this city. There are actual journalists, right? But there's a lot of people who dabble into political interests that skew media content to support positions and platforms that isn't getting their information sourced, verified, fact-checked by professionals, people that do this work for a living. A lot of people use the media content that they create to produce in certain ways to push for their own family political dynasties and interests. And a lot of times who suffers is the public, because the public doesn't understand how do these people get access. A lot of this is political driven. A lot of this is relationships from backdoor situations. There's just people doing all kinds of things to get to be seen. And that happens out of Philadelphia. A lot of people in Philadelphia want to be seen. It's very performative. It's taking serious issues and then integrating them within a larger complex that's really a political machine interest for their own self-promotion and self-centeredness. And is there good intention behind some of it? Sure, right? People care about gun violence, care about those issues. But at the same time, there is this interest in, turning that stuff out. Getting a certain angle, getting certain looks and likes and views and positioning to other people. And I've seen too many people manipulate media content in ways to try to do that. And I get the phone calls and I hear the things, and I know a lot. I know it all. I know. People get on the radio show. I was on a radio show Sunday morning, and somebody took a segment of something I said, part of what I said, and then sent it around, texted around, trying to create hype around it. Listen, everything that I say publicly on my podcast, on the TV show, radio show, I stand behind it. And, I think a lot of times people assume that, like I tell people before, not all my skin folk are my kinfolk. If you black and you wrong, you black and you wrong. If you black and you right, you are right, right? But there's people who oftentimes assume that they can, do things in ways that are not necessarily, solid. And we live in a time where I see white people infantize black people who do media work. They don't give them honest critique. They give them a gold star just because they're black and they're out here doing something. And I think sometimes we celebrate mediocrity. Sometimes we don't really challenge what we're seeing because we just want to have a good story. Because a lot of times people are so gullible to not seeing deep between what's happening and what they're being deceived on. So I just want to tell people, look closely. I remember that American Beauty picture, and I never forget that post. That poster is so iconic. I don't know if you go back, look up American Beauty, the movie poster. When I look at that poster, I do want to tell it. So when you first look at the picture, it's a person that looked like to have a rose on their belly button. But when you look closer, it looks like there's a rose petal, that the belly button isn't the belly button. It's actually a rose petal that fell off the flower that's on this like table or envelope. And so it's not really a body. So it's just it's an incredible poster that speaks to what the movie was about. And so, it's just look closer and fuck Kevin Spacey and he's terrible. But that film, and what that film, when it came out, it was one of my favorite films when it came out. And Kevin Spacey's performance was good. Clearly, we find out he's just as creepy as that father, Lester, whoever the father was in the movie. He was just as creepy as him. But in that film, in the movie itself, it dared you to look closer. And like, you realize that there's so many other nuanced layers and parallels of people and things. And yes. So, in wrapping all this up, I do want to tell you, last week I said I had a surprise. I guess now it's okay for me to reveal it. I'm going to reveal more details tomorrow. But the good news is that I am going to be on 6ABC Saturday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the show called Visions. Visions is the longest running Black they say minority, underrepresented Black and brown program on 6ABC. Like, it's their longest running program. They've had it forever. It's apparently the old heads like it. The folks like being on Visions is like a big damn deal to people. It's their like magazine program that comes on every Saturday evening, and folks watch the show. Well, I'm on there. There's a segment of me on the show talking about my work, my career, Daniel Outlaw, all that kind of stuff. And so I don't know what all going to be in it. It premieres at 7 p.m. Chris Dioletto, who's an incredible Black journalist, she interviewed me, and we interviewed at downtown, and it was a beautiful interview, and the conversation was great, and she filmed me, and it was some good. We had some good grown up conversation, and I don't know how much is going to be on air, but we talked, and it was a great just interview. It was a really great televised interview. So you all can see me on there. I'm super excited about that. Me and TV appearances. I make a couple every blue moon, but this is like local. I know the folks love a good local appearance. So, radio has been showing me lots of love, but it's always cool to get some TV love. So shout out to Chris Dioletto, shout out to 6ABC and everybody who worked behind the scenes and produced that to make that happen. Thank you all so much for that. And y'all got to tune in. I haven't even announced anywhere else. So if you're hearing this podcast early, you one of the people that listen to it today, you're finding out before everybody else. So I'm super excited about it. And thank you so much for everybody who helped with that project and all of that jazz coming. There's more things coming. I'm consistently getting phone calls for things that I'm like, wow, that's really happening. But, it's always a pleasure. It's always great. And yeah, so this weekend I'm going to go to the Prime Rib, the grand opening at the new Philadelphia Casino or whatever downtown. I think it's not downtown, it's like a little bit outwards. But I'm going out there. People love my food pictures. I'll be taking food pictures. People in my crew having a good old time. It's going to be a lively couple of days, but I'm in between all the writing I'm doing and things. I'm having fun. I mean, I'm vaccinated, so I'm feeling really good. My friend Jamarcus went to a strip club out in Miami, but he was vaccinated for his second time, so, I wasn't judging hard. But he had a mask on, and he had a lap dance, and it was at a straight club, too, which was hilarious. But he had a good time, he said, and he ate good food and had fun, and we're catching up. We're going to go to the Whiskey Village and whatnot sometime this weekend. And I'm getting my massage on Friday, because goodness knows I needed it. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing this weekend and all of that. So, thank you for tuning in, and, as always, it's a pleasure.
Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.